You're tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
Welcome into RBLR Rays here at RBLR Sports, and welcome back to the win streak, buddy. If you listened last week, it was a little bit of the roller coaster going down. We figured out ways to lose last week, and this week it was back on top of the roller coaster. With me, my name is Yurika, and with me this morning, as we are excited post July 4th and going into the All-Star break, with me is Ben. What's up? Welcome back from vacation, Ben. What's up, man?
Hey, it's good to be back. I've got a new mic too, so I don't sound like I'm underwater. I'm a little bit more tan than I was before, and I'm excited to be back and get back on this.
Yeah, but those are all good things, and what a week, man! What a week to come back to. It's a sea of green. It's all W's. There's no L's in the column for this week, so it's all going to be fun and happiness and rainbows when it comes to the Rays. Well,
yeah.
The first question I would want to ask you though is are these the real Rays that we're seeing? Should we be prepared for more of this in the second half, or kind of back up and down like we've seen the first half?
I mean, what are we on? We're on a 5-game win streak now, so I feel like chunks of 5-game win streaks would be a little bit more realistic than like the 11 or 12-game win streak we had earlier this season. Just because like it's really hard to win 5 games in a row. So like 12 is kind of like a statistical outlier there, but I think we can expect the Rays to, win most of the series they play in, and if that turns into a 5-6 game win streak, then that's great too.
Let's get right into the news of the week. The first thing being Manuel Margot running down first. He's hustling. He makes the hustle play at first, and then we all kind of collectively wince as he is coming up a little lame. What's the latest on Manuel Margot?
Yeah, so I mean, I appreciate the hustle that he brings, but that's definitely what did him in there, getting on the first baseline. He should be out about 2 to 3 weeks, but hamstring things can be tricky, so it's it could be a little bit longer, but with the depth the Rays have, it's really not going to hurt the team too much. Austin Meadows' defense has been pretty good recently, so he's definitely stepped up in that way. Also, Meadows' bat has been amazing. I'm sure we'll get into that soon, but. Yeah, it sucks that Margot's out, but it's not going to hurt the team as much as it might have like early on in the season.
Now, with him going down, that gave the Rays an opportunity to bring up Vidal Brujan, who is just we were saying off air, he's like the Swiss Army knife. I mean, the guy plays multiple positions. He's a switch hitter. If I have this right, he doesn't look like he hits for power, but pretty much does everything else that you want at the plate. He brings a ton of energy that we've seen this week. And what do you have to say? I mean, silver linings and all that, but how about the debut of Vidal Brujan?
Oh yeah, he's going to be an impactful, like, everyday player. It's going to be a little tough to get him in the lineup every day just because of the logjam of infielders that we have, but his biggest tool is his speed. I believe it's like a 70 grade on Fangraphs. So it's pretty impressive because, speed doesn't slump. Like sometimes your bat, you might go through a cold streak, whatever, but he's not going to randomly become slower overnight. So he's going to be impactful every single day, whether it's as a pinch runner or, starting a game, wherever he is, he's going to perform well. So it's exciting.
I love it. Well, unfortunately, there are a couple more injuries. What else is on the injury report?
Yeah, Brasso allegedly has an oblique strain, but that seems like it's a bit of a code word for he's going to be on the IL, so Brujan can stay up, and he's going to take like the major league money on the IL because that's a little bit more than the minor league money on their IL. So it's fine. It's a manipulation type thing. Every team does it, but good for him getting a nice little paid vacation. We've also got Brendan McKay's trying to work his way back. He had a slight setback because of his some discomfort in his shoulder. It most likely is nothing. They're just saying it's like the scar tissue readjusting, but we'll see how he progresses like this next week here. Rowe, another guy with a shoulder injury, he's actually done for the season now, which really sucks because, his sliders are so entertaining to watch. I Every time he's on like the Pitching Ninja Twitter, it's just amazing to see how much that ball moves. So it sucks that he's done, but next man up, the bullpen's deep. I'm not too concerned about the injuries right now.
Yeah, speaking of the bullpen and pitching, we've seen a lot of the young guys. We'll get a little bit more into that in a second, but on the infielding side, we've seen a lot of these new guys, but we haven't seen guys like Shane Baz is a name that we've maybe thought of like, oh, maybe we can bring him up a little later on this year, or maybe that's instead of making a trade, we bring him in. Looks like he's getting on a plane soon.
Yeah, I hope the Olympics are still on when they do come around soon. I know it's been a little sketchy with them allowing fans into the stadium and stuff because of COVID and the Delta variant, all that stuff. But when the Olympics are over, I think we'll definitely see both Shane Baz and Boz. I'm not 100% sure.
Or Boz? Yeah, I gotta.
His Twitter thing is Wizard of Boz, which would make sense. So, but I've heard people on MLB Network say Baz. So either way, that Shane is going to be up with the Shane we have now, McClanahan, and then we'll eventually get Joe Ryan too because he's also headed the Olympics. So it'll be a nice boost. Like mid-August, I think we could see them, maybe late August.
Yeah, you think it's basically they're going to do that and then swing back around for September call-ups?
Yeah, absolutely. And then we also have like Oliver Drake, who's pretty close to returning. Ryan Thompson, he's a little sore. I think it was a shoulder or an elbow for him, but he should be back soon. Like I said before, Brendan McKay's working his way back. Then we've got Anderson and Archer, who are they've been throwing, playing catch. I think these players coming back from injury, along with Boz, whatever, and Joe Ryan, I think those could end up being our trade acquisitions coming into the deadline because it looks like the Rays do need just like one more arm to help them out.
Yeah. Speaking of logjam, do you think we kind of alluded to this a couple weeks ago, but bringing up Brujan on top of bringing up Walls already, and of course Wander's time, is Brujan, you think, going to stay up especially when Margot comes back? And if not, what are they going to do about all these players, including making room for another bullpen arm?
Yeah, I think Brujan's going to stay. I mean, the Rays typically, when they bring up their young prospects, they don't like to send them back down. Brujan is at a place right now in his development where he needs to be challenged. Obviously, he had a little bit of a slump in AAA recently, but he's not really going to develop that well at that level because he's already better than the pitching that he's seeing at that level. So I think it would be best to keep him up. Same with Walls and Franco. I think they're going to stay. I can't imagine where they would, go back down to AAA for any extended period of time. So it's going to probably have to be a trade, or Kevin Cash is going to have to keep doing like a balancing act where, he's able to get that entire bench in the lineup almost every day, which, it can be tricky, but I think he could do it, but it might be easiest if they do make a trade.
Yeah, do you think we're only as limited as the imagination of Kevin Cash, right? But right. Almost like you're platooning lineups. You have like an entire different infield and outfield depending on the matchup or whatnot. Do you expect them to keep as many fielders on the bench and bats on the bench, or do you think they're going to go a little deeper in the bullpen when it's kind of all said and done?
Just because of the transition from a 60-game season to 162 games, I think the emphasis is going to be placed on the bullpen. So I don't really see the need for 4 bats on the bench they have right now. Yeah. 3 would be ideal. I know 4 and 3. They're very close. They're not. There's not much difference number wise, but in terms of like a guy sitting on the bench versus a guy sitting in the bullpen, it does make a pretty big difference. So I think there's going to be a trade. It's going to most likely be an infielder, and I at first I thought Wendell might be the guy to go, but now he's an all-star, so that might make it a little bit tougher to trade him, or it's going to make his trade value go up, and we'll get more of a a return for him if he does go. But it's really tough to say who's going to be the odd man out here.
I agree with that. I think Wendell is, if not Kevin Kiermaier. I mean, I think
Yeah.
all respect to KK, but I think he's like number one target that you're trying to get off the books. But Wendell, though, man, I think his trade value has never been higher. I mean, he's a veteran now. He's an all-star for the first time as of this morning, right, or last night. So getting him at the height of his trade value, I think we would miss him, of course, but I think it's the Rays way, really. Just kind of get what you can for this guy and ship him off to a team that hopefully has as much of a potential either now or in the future to get to the playoffs, to kind of do him right. But someone that needs a bat, someone that's dependable and maybe can teach maybe some of their younger guys, just like he's done here in Tampa Bay.
Absolutely, yeah. He's going to be a guy that isn't playing every day, but he does deserve to play every day. So, just for his sake, I think a trade would be best so he can keep, stay on the field. He's on pace for 5 wins above replacement this season, which is amazing. He's got 6 defensive runs saved between shortstop and third, which would put him tied for 4th best in the league with a bunch of other guys. So, he's playing great defense. He's, hitting well. And he should be playing every day. But like I said, the logjam is going to make it difficult. So a trade would make sense for both the Rays and for Wendell.
Now, if you had to go out and get an arm that wasn't coming up from injury or from our own farm system, was there a guy in mind you might have had targeted that you'd like to see?
Yeah, actually, this past series against the Angels recently made me start thinking about that. There's a guy that probably isn't on the radar of a lot of teams, but he is going to be available, and that's going to be Andrew Heaney with the Angels. He's been sneakily really good this season. He's in the 92nd percentile in all of baseball with chase rate, 88th percentile in fastball spin, 65th percentile with curveball spin. So he's got some really great tools, but his numbers haven't necessarily matched his. I guess his output hasn't really matched what he actually does on the mound. So he's gotten a little unlucky, a little bit inconsistent, whatever. But he's a pretty good player. He's a lefty, so that would be nice. A little bit more balance in the bullpen. But it's really hard to say if the Rays would make a trade because he would be around $2 million just for half the season, which is a little expensive for the Rays. But we'll see. But I personally think he would be the best possible acquisition they can make, and just because he's under the radar a little bit, it might make him easier to get.
The Rays way, man. It's just it's what we do. We give us your downtrodden, your cast off, your your guy we can teach a changeup late in his career. What can we do to help you out? I mean, if it's anything that the Rays do above all, it's develop pitching. Even at the major league level, as we've seen a few of these guys,
absolutely.
We even saw a little bit of I guess I'll ask your opinion later on about was Waka's outing a good one or a bad one? Because statistically, you could say one thing. You watch the game, you might have a different opinion. So, well, let's get into that. Let's get into the week that was. The last game that I had covered was the Saturday, the July 3rd game. So the first game we'll talk about is the fireworks game at Buffalo. It was a 5-1 win against the Buffalo Blue Jays.
Yeah, that was a pretty nice game to sneak out of there with a win with. That sounded win with weird win with. I don't know. I can't talk right now.
The joys of
but
audio.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, something like that. It was a pretty nice win though. A good team win. Everybody did their jobs. Everybody played well. Yarbrough was solid as he's been all season. And I know he got a lot of heat, and Kevin Cash did too, actually, for the difference in Yarbrough when he starts a game versus when he comes in as a bulk guy.
Okay.
But for his career, his numbers are almost identical, whether he's a starter or reliever. So if you look at, instead of just ERA, we got to look at FIP because that's, field independent pitching. That's a true measurement of how a pitcher is performing, regardless of the defense behind them or different factors that could impact the game.
Okay.
But his FIP as a starter versus a reliever is essentially the same. As a starter, it's 4.27. As a reliever, it's 4.34. So he's really, you know, he's the same player regardless of what the eye test might say. So it was good to see him kind of solidify that and have a good start.
Yeah, it's having Yarborough. I mean, we've talked about going and getting Haney, right? But if he's a guy that we're going to need him and McClanahan later on, we'll talk about.
Absolutely.
But we need these guys to make that little bit of a quantum leap. We need these guys to kind of perform at the highest level, or at least dependable level. And I mean, that's at least him being, no matter when you throw him in the game, he's consistent, and you really can't ask for more out of a pitcher than that.
Absolutely. So yeah, the next one I had from that game to pay attention to is Colin McHugh. I know a lot of people have been raving about him recently, and they should. He's been probably the second most valuable arm, in my opinion, out of the Rays pen behind Andrew Kittredge, just because of the many different roles Kittredge has been filling. But McHugh has been so solid. He's got a 39% strikeout rate.
Yep.
His FIP is 1.24, which is like insanely good. That's like all-star level.
Correct.
So, I think he should have been an all-star, but that's another conversation, I guess. And he's actually still like not even at his best yet. His batting average on balls in play is at 338, which is pretty high for him considering his career average is around 300. So he actually could continue to improve. I'm not saying that he's underperforming or overperforming, but I think we could see him get even a little bit better as the season goes on. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, well, as you try to contextualize, like if the balls in play are getting highly above average, right? 300, I think, is like your average BABIP,
right?
But with a 39% K rate, I mean, well, especially in this particular game, he went 3 innings in relief, only gave up 1 hit, and had 6 strikeouts, right? So that's 2 Ks per 9, or sorry, that would be you'd be 18 Ks per 9 at that rate.
Insane.
That's insane, right? It's like Roger Clemens or whatever on the mound here, but maybe the K rate goes down a little bit. Maybe that FIP goes up, but you still have a solid defense behind him. So I think obviously you're going to see that if people are making contact with his pitches, they're going to be in the arms of a Wander Franco at third, or a Taylor Walls at short, or Vidal Brujan at second. And it's like, so I think a lot of our staffs, maybe not FIP, but definitely ERAs are going to start trending down, or in a good way.
Absolutely.
Speaking of Taylor Walls, man, he made his return in this game.
He is. I'm a little biased because I love defensive players. Like that's. I guess just growing up as a Rays fan, you have to kind of learn to value defense over offense because there wasn't much of that back in the day.
Yeah.
But he is honestly my favorite player on the team. I haven't updated it in the notes here, but after last night, he's actually on pace for a 7 WAR based on Baseball Reference.
Jeez.
And typically players with like an 8 WAR win an MVP. So he's been secretly like one of the best players on the team since he's gotten called up. He's got 9 defensive runs saved now, which is actually, I need to update this here. It's good for second best.
Wow.
And tied for second best in all of baseball.
Yeah.
And he's played about half as many innings as the leader, who's the catcher for Pittsburgh, Jacob Stallings, I believe. So Jacob Stallings has 10 defensive runs saved. Taylor Walls has 9, and he's played half the innings he's played. So Walls is, in my opinion, going to be the best defensive shortstop in baseball.
Wow. I mean, that's not even a spicy take. That's just like, look at the data.
Like if we look at like his outs above average, his defensive WAR, defensive run, it's all pointing in that direction that he's one of the best defenders.
Well, and it's just to give it a little bit of a recap, when he came up, it was like, okay, Taylor Walls, but what about Wander, shortstop Wander? And I think he's done. I don't know if that put a chip on his shoulder, or if he mattered anyway, or if the Rays kind of knew that he was gonna be an everyday player anyway. But we're kind of seeing it shake out where you don't want to move this kid from shortstop. I mean, we had a little bit of a kerfuffle on a defensive play where both guys are just aggressively going, because I think if you look at their zone rating, right, I mean, they probably could like just play 2 infielders, just them, and they could do everything. But they'll figure that out eventually. But Taylor Walls has definitely been more than impressive. I mean, it's ridiculous, the statistics, to be fair, especially when we maybe didn't have the high expectations because we're all salivating over Wander coming up behind him.
Right.
You know,
That's true.
But speaking of Wander, he's been, he kind of had the highs and the lows. Obviously, the amazing debut, and then we kind of started coming back to earth. But I know you had definitively had said, like, look, keep watching. His numbers will be fine. He's not doing badly at the plate. It's just unlucky, and the numbers will regress back to where they need to go.
Yeah, I think he's definitely gotten unlucky. Last night was not really luck. That was just he just got played. Like Alek Manoah, his slider is disgusting. Franco ended up striking out 4 times in the game last night.
Yeah.
But going into last night, he did have an 8-game hit streak. So he's starting to piece it together. Last night was a bit of a bump in the road. But according to Baseball Savant, they're like a data thing with a data organization with MLB. Franco has a 14% solid contact percentage.
Okay.
And if he qualified, that would make him first in the league by about like 5%.
Wow.
So the leader, I forgot who it was. I think it's like Nick Castellanos with the Reds. I think he's at like 9%, and that's the lead. So, Franco's making really good contact. We just have to, we have to keep putting him out there. We have to let him, keep learning and growing because he's still developing. He's 20, 21 years old.
Yeah.
He's not done yet. We just got to be patient as we are with a lot of the young guys. So he's going to be fine though.
Wander, man, he is a homer off the top of the fence, which was kind of funny because Randall Grichuk took the lead for Toronto with a home run. It bounced off literally just it landed on top of the yellow stripe of the fence.
Right.
Wander a few innings later does the same thing in right center where it bounces off of the top of the fence. I thought that was pretty funny, but to tie the game. In the game, he goes 2 for 4 with a run batted in, among a couple other Rays that did him. I mean, Yandy Diaz, we haven't brought him. 2 for 3 in this game, and Austin Meadows, man, this was just the beginning of an amazing week for Austin Meadows. 3 for 4 with 2 runs batted in, including, and here's my statistic, I'm 11, 2 for 3 with runners in scoring position. Especially when we had a jam in the second inning, we had such a good opportunity that was squandered. We'll get into how good Robbie Ray did in that situation, but Austin Meadows, man, the start of a wonderful week for him.
Yeah, he's been really impressive. His defense has been solid too recently. I know he's gotten a little bit of criticism for that early on in the season, but he's just going up there to the plate every single at bat with a good approach. Just looking to either get on base or hit the ball hard. Those are it seems like his 2 favorite things to do, and he's been doing a lot of that lately, so it's nice.
Yeah. A little bit of the down throw, if I had to say, like I was freaking out already. It was the top of the second. Mike Zunino comes up with runners at second and third after Meadows, of course, hits a double, and Ray strikes out Zunino, who's an all-star, right? He's an all-star for the first time. Then Mejia comes up next, strikes out, and then Taylor Walls comes up and strikes out, and it's just like, oh no, not again, please no. But then it all worked itself out late in the game with Wander, and then Austin Meadows getting an RBI that scored a couple more runs to really blow it open. So. But all in all, a decent win and a decent ending to that series with the Blue Jays, and then they moved to the wonderful, wonderful Cleveland baseball team that comes in, and it couldn't have been a better kind of a series. I know Cleveland isn't in the best form right now. They had to bring up some guys from the minors and whatever you want to situate it with, but. A sweep is a sweep, and we couldn't have had a better time for them to come in. But what a weird game the first game was with Cleveland, a 9-8 win. What did you see out of this game?
Yeah, that was a bit of a crazy game there. I really liked Lau. That grand slam he had was pretty cool.
Yeah,
I've been high on him all season. He's been great. But yeah, that game was just. It came down to being a battle of the bullpens, and Rays are going to win those battles 9 times out of 10 just because their bullpen is so good. So, it's a weird win. It's high scoring. It's not, how the Rays want to play every game, but it's important to win those kinds of games.
Well, you have Rich Hill, right? Who he gets the early pull, and he was not happy about it, right?
Right.
Now I didn't get into the post game, and I don't have any notes from a couple days ago about it, but he visibly upset. They had to blur out his face and shades of the World Series. But Rich Hill either upset with himself or upset with the call. But he goes 3 2/3. He gets 5 strikeouts, but untimely hitting. I mean, at the 4th inning for him was just crazy. He gave up multiple base runners. But then he gets a strikeout. But then he hits a dude to load the bases, and it's just. Not all bad, but not great. And I think Cash had the right intention pulling him out, and Rasmussen comes in, gets a liner to get out of the jam, but then Cleveland hits him pretty hard the next inning, right. And it's just one of those where the Cleveland baseball team just had they were getting good contact, they were moving runners, and oh man. Reyes was a monster. If there was one great player for the Cleveland baseball team, it was Reyes, who just was a monster in all of these games. He had a crazy home run. Franmil Reyes is his name, sorry. And it wasn't until the bats kind of came back. They were the Rays were up. 4-0 with the grand slam, but then they went down, or they got tied 5-5. Then they went down 8-5, and then they rallied back to win it. I mean, I know in the group chat I was just like astonished. I'm like, what is going on? Baseball is crazy. Yeah. Were there any outside of just amazing? The box score is just ridiculous. It's like a video game box score. But was there anything real that you pulled out of this game that moving forward we can take?
I think, like you said, baseball can be crazy. That's something we've got to keep in mind this season, especially with all the young and inexperienced players on the team.
Okay.
Technically, Arozarena is still a rookie, so we've got him, Walls, Franco, Brujan. Fireisen is technically a rookie. We've got Rasmussen, McClanahan, Patino when he gets back up.
Wow.
They're all essentially rookies, and Francisco Mejia is he's very inexperienced. He's not technically a rookie, but he hasn't really played in too many games. So games like that are going to happen, and as long as the Rays can find a way to win those games, which they've shown they can do, their record in one-run games is pretty good. I think they're like 3 or 4 games over 500 in one-run games. So just find a way to win, and they've done that.
I love it. Now, unfortunately, I guess luckily the tropical storm it became a hurricane at the last minute, and then it fell apart. Luckily, before it did any real damage to us in the Tampa Bay area. But Elsa comes along and postpones. It's weird. It's always weird to see the Rays have a rain postponement. Technically, is what they called it.
Yeah,
but,
it was.
It's like you have a dome, buddy. But no. All jokes aside, luckily it fell apart. But we had a doubleheader on Wednesday, and just completely different games. The first one, an 8-1 win in 7 innings with Michael Wacha on the mound. And so I wanted to ask you. Sorry, get the cough button here. Wacha goes 6 innings, gives up 4 hits, 1 earned run, and 6 strikeouts. But he also had a lot of base runners, I think, in this game. Was he good this game, or was this just a tale of the numbers lying to us?
His performance was good. The numbers were better than his performance, I think, if that makes sense. He pitched well, but his numbers were above that. But I think that's mostly what we're going to see out of Wacha. He's not going to be like a Cy Young candidate, but he's also not going to be the same guy we saw against Seattle. So it's going to be, I think we're going to see him go back and forth a little bit, but he should be a fairly decent pitcher. He's going to be a little bit better than what we've seen this season. So, I think he's right about where he should be. And as long as he keeps playing okay, he'll, stay on the team. But if, he slips off at any point, we have Patino, waiting in AAA, who seems pretty hungry for that roster spot. So it's I think that competition is going to be good for him.
That's what I was thinking is that Walker. I mean, as a 5, right? As your number 5,
Yeah.
okay. I mean, you're kind of hoping your 5 just eats a bunch of innings, and he went 6 out of 7 innings this game. You only had to have one reliever come in for the last inning, but I think his spot is the one in the rotation that's like, oh, okay, buddy, like there's going to be a lot of competition, or if they go out and get someone, I don't know if he's the guy that sticks around once the dust settles there. But this was the game that Vidal Brujan debuted, and he made his entrance very early in the first inning. He's at second base, makes a crazy good defensive stop, and then in the second inning turns around and gets an RBI single. So what did you think about the kid's debut, and were you giving him the standing ovation at home?
Yeah, I was definitely impressed with what he did there. He's going to be someone who's almost slump proof. Like I say almost because his bat was a little inconsistent this year at AAA,
Yeah.
but he's so fast that he can't really slump. Like he's still going to be a stolen base threat. Like every single time he's on the base, he's fast and he's quick, so he can play those infield positions where he needs to change directions quickly. But he can also play the outfield because he's got that intense speed. So I'm so impressed with him. I think the power will eventually show up just because of his bat speed. Like his single, I think his first major league hit was like 107 off the bat, which is that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Not a lot of rookies are coming up and hitting a ball that hard. So I think his power will come with experience, but I'm really excited about him. He's a huge impact player.
Speaking of power, I mean, this game, Franmil Reyes, of course,
Right.
you're going to hear that name a couple more times, but Franmil Reyes for the Cleveland baseball team hits a homer. That's the only run that Cleveland scored in this game. But Kevin Kiermaier has a 3-run blast. I mean, insanity. Good to see KK get a little bit of a power swing. Brandon
Oh, yeah.
Lau, of course, continues his beefy run. He gets a home run to right field, and then Brett Phillips hits the netting above the Rays tank in center field, which is pretty damn impressive. I mean, that's the deepest part of the field, and if you get any deeper, you're in the barbecue pit that's
Right.
that's in the center field there. So a lot of power in this game. People just teeing off. I mean, by that time you're up 6, 7, 8-1. Walker's doing okay, getting out of some jams, good defensive plays, and all in all, just a happy time for Vidal Brujan. But we didn't see Brujan and Franco together, or we didn't. We're all waiting for that pairing. We did not get that one, and I don't believe he played or played together in the game 2 either.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, but that's really the question is the second game. The big question I have for you, Ben, is do you call this a no-hitter?
Oh yeah. I mean, the Rays fan in me wants to say yes, but like I don't think so. I'm sorry. I
Really?
hope nobody hates me for that, but it's very impressive. Don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
but just the fact that it's 7 innings, the fact that they changed that infield hit to an error. I think it was Franco who made that error. That kind of discounts it a little bit too. It's just it's very close. Like they were they were amazing, but
Yeah.
I personally wouldn't call it a no hitter. But what about you?
I do. I think that for a number, this has been the big debate, right, on all of the Rays universe here. Is it a no hitter, no hitter? And I guess if you want to say, however you want to take it, technically it is a no hitter. The
Right.
Major League
Technically,
Baseball
yes.
decided to make this game 7 innings. The Rays didn't make that option, right?
That's a good point.
They went all of the innings that were the Major League Baseball game, and they did not give up a hit. Point, period. That's it. However, I'm a realist, right? So I think in this reality that Major League Baseball has created, there's a tier. There's a tier system of like, okay, how do you want to say grade A or 5? We'll say 5-star no hitter is one guy goes 9 innings. I think we all agree that's like boom, like okay, that's the top tier. Okay.
Yeah.
And then second tier to that would be the combined. This is the other part of this is it a combined no hitter, and is that impressive? Of course it is. So you have maybe a 4-star no hitter is a combined no hitter, 9-inning combined no hits. That's your 4-star no hitter, and then below that would be these 7 innings. If one guy went 7 innings and no hit a team, I think that'd be very impressive. And I think it's even maybe just slightly less. I guess your 3-star is where I'm going to put this one. Is if you have 7 innings and it's combined of how many people, but they all come in and none of them give up a hit. Is it as impressive? No, of course not. Of course not. But it is by the letter of the law, technically, and that's the best kind of being correct. It is a no hitter, and just not as impressive as like a Nolan Ryan or something like that. But still, man, Colin McHugh, man, your boy Colin McHugh gets the start between him, Josh Fleming, Diego Castillo, Matt Whistler, and Pete Fairbanks. They come in and they get the job done across their innings that they're pitching. And even Taylor Walls, man, here we go. Runners in scoring position. He gets the party started with an RBI. Then he turns a double play the next inning and has another RBI later in the game. So you're getting, this is like the Rays like fantasy right here, is you get good pitching, you're getting good solid hitting, and amazing defense all the way around. I mean, even Wander had an amazing defensive play at third, laser arm, and I think Meadows even had a diving catch in left field. So it's just like, what is going on here? It's amazing. And so I had a lot of fun watching this game, and I almost like forgot it was the hitless game, because I'm just like, every time I'd peek over at the TV, I'm like, good defense, they're hitting the ball, they're up, and oh wow, the game's already over. Wow.
Yeah, it was impressive. It definitely felt like a Rays type of win with the defense and the pitching. So it was awesome.
All right. Then the very last game was as we're doing this on Saturday morning. Last night, they started their last series before the All-Star break, and that was with a 7-1 win against the Blue Jays. And it was weird because we're actually facing the same pitching matchups that we had played earlier in the week, or last week, starting with Shane McClanahan on the mound against Alek Manoah. Pretty good rookie for Toronto. What do you have to say about Mr. Manoah?
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to facing him, over this next, however long he stays in Toronto. I'm assuming forever, probably, because he's so good. But I'm not looking forward to facing him. He is very good. His control's still a little iffy, but he's still young. He's got time to work on that. But his slider is in my opinion, the best in the league. Like it's not the best by like every metric, but it does so many things well. Like the horizontal movement is in like, I think the 95th percentile. I don't have that in my notes, but I was looking it up right before I got on. Yeah. The expected batting average on that slider is 123. Like if he gets to that slider, it's pretty much a strikeout. We saw that last night. He's very, very good with that.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to update the numbers after this, but going into this game, I mean, the only real standout bad statistic was a home run rate of 1.71, right?
That's true. Yeah.
I mean, so other than giving up almost 2 home runs a game, man, 29, a little over 29% strikeout rate, and a almost 8% walk rate. That's pretty good. It's pretty good. Phenomenal. He moves good movement on his pitches, and maybe that's because he's just getting started, and we'll see as people adjust, especially the Rays, as we adjust and see him more and more. But he's on a tear right now, and he's and he looked good doing it too. We talk about the stats, but the eye test as well. You just see this kid, and you're like, he's
like 6'6".
He's a
huge.
big boy.
He's just
a big
intimidating.
Boy. I mean, it's insane. Like looking at him and going, like, he could potentially be a problem for a very long time. But McClanahan, though, would on the other side, another guy that we're trying to shore up this rotation. He gets out of the jams that he was in, but they were self-inflicted, I think, a couple times here. He goes 4 innings, gives up 4 hits, and unfortunately they're all untimely hits. Only gives up 1 earned run because of good defense, and strikes out 5 on his own. But then Kittredge comes in with another good 2 innings of work. Jeffrey Springs comes in and just strikes out 5. He only had 1 out that wasn't a strikeout, and Fireisen comes in and finishes it up. So a good day, I think, for the bullpen. But what about Shane McClanahan?
Yeah, he's been so impressive. He's another guy with a pretty good slider. He's got a 180 expected batting average on that slider, and also Shane throws like 100 miles an hour, so that's a plus there too. Yeah. But like you said before, he had some self-inflicted troubles, and if we're going to roll out these young pitchers with these amazing arms, we're going to have to kind of live with those mistakes and give him the opportunity to learn and grow. But he's going to be really good the second half of the season. I like him a lot. He did pretty well considering how right-handed heavy that Toronto lineup is. So it was a pretty impressive start from McClanahan.
Yeah, I mean it's been this whole week as we kind of we've kind of looking at a big picture about what did we learn this week, and I think that we didn't see a couple of the games it was all home run, but more so this whole week it was hitting extra base hits, man, hitting doubles, legging out triples, getting the hit when you needed to. I mean, even before this, the walk-off win last week was a little chopper that scored a run, and it wasn't just feast or famine. It wasn't we did strike out a lot. Don't get me wrong. That statistic did not go away. That's just what the Rays are going to do all year. But when they contact the ball, they've been hitting gaps and moving runners, and I mean gets multiple people with multiple runs batted in, and it's been like in this game, Austin Meadows another 2-run single with the bases loaded to take the lead. G-Man Choi had a RBI single that scored a couple runs, and Taylor Walls again, man, just had himself a week, buddy. What can you say? Just pouring it on, and so it's like if you're getting. This is the Rays formula, man. If you have good defense, it will get you out of those jams from your young pitching. But if they're scoring 3 runs, I mean, I'm not saying they need to score 8 runs and 7 runs like they did this week, but if they're scoring 3 or 4 and they've got a good enough defense to make up for inevitably there's going to be a bad spot or just a blown chance either from maybe a Rich Hill starter, Michael Waka, or Shane McClanahan gives up an untimely hit. But it's kind of bend but don't break, I think. And for this week, it didn't break. Last week, not so much, but this week had all of the makings of consistent winning Rays baseball. What were some of your big points that you got out of this week?
I still am a Brandon Lau truther. I think he's been one of the best players on the team all season long. I think he's not leading in baseball reference WAR, but he's leading in Fangraphs WAR for the team, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, over his last 30 games, he's got an 847 OPS. His last 15, he's got a 1,038 OPS, which is insane. And then over his last 70s, if you can believe it, even hotter, 1,125 or 1.125 OPS. I don't really know how people usually say that. I just read it on Twitter sometimes. And he's got home runs in 8 of his last 10 series. We're expecting him to hopefully get one soon against the Blue Jays here, but he's just been consistently hitting the ball hard and hitting it in the air. He's still going to strike out a lot, but we can live with the strikeouts if he's good for a home run or 2 every series.
Moving on, we've got the All-Star game this weekend.
Oh, yeah.
Mike Zunino, we kind of, I don't know if I brushed over this too quickly, but Mike Zunino making his first appearance. He's going to be catching in the All-Star game. And, of course, we just learned within the last 24 hours that we're going to have a second All-Star, Joey Wendell. So let's get into them first, and then maybe why did any of the arms got snubbed for a first place, second place team here?
Yeah, Zunino has been amazing. I wrote about him before on Reddit, but he's been the second best in the league with barrels per plate appearance. So he's barreling up the ball more than anybody else in the league except for Shohei Ohtani, who we know he can hit the ball pretty hard. We've seen him do
It's
that.
pretty good.
Um, yeah, oh yeah, Ohtani is he's going to be a generational talent
Oh,
here. Like I can see him in the Hall of Fame already.
yeah.
But anyways, back to the other possible Hall of Famer, Mike Zunino.
Yeah, buddy.
He's the best framer in the league this season. He's getting those borderline calls 52.1% of the time. That's more than any other catcher in the league with at least like 1,300 pitches caught. So he's been doing it consistently. He's helping out every single pitcher on the staff by framing the ball well.
Yeah.
He's just he's been one of the most consistent players, especially defensively for the Rays, and now his bat has been pretty great this season too. So, love Mike Zunino.
Man, and this is a guy that, sorry, I have to apologize to Mike Zunino. This was one of my guys when I previewed the season earlier that I said this was one of the question marks. Was like, all right, Mike Zunino, we know he's good at defense, but there's a reason they went and threw in Francisco Mejia in the trade with Snell, and it was like, can Zunino hit the ball that isn't just a home run? I mean, he came up good in the playoffs, obviously, but it was like, that's the question. Is, you don't need a silver. I mean, you don't need the guy to lead the league in any metric, but you just need to not be a liability if you're going to be the everyday catcher. And there's a little bit of like Mejia did a little bit of better than that, but even he was a question mark about, like, is his defense as good? No. Is his bat as good? Maybe better. But I think either they've figured it out together, or they have pushed each other in a competition. I that would be something I would have to be in the locker room to know. But the proof's in the pudding, and the pudding is going to the All-Star game. So I apologize, Mr. Zunino. You've answered the question this first half, and I cannot wait to cheer you on in the All-Star game. So if you're listening, I'm sorry, and I won't do it again. So man, do you think that Zunino can keep this up in the second half?
I think so. I think it's it's his defense that's really carrying him. Even if the pitchers do figure him out, he starts hitting home runs at a slower pace, whatever. That wouldn't be the worst thing, because he's still making the pitching staff so much better. So I think he'll keep it up in the second half. I really like his. It's not necessarily like his arm, because his arm is okay. Base runners are taking advantage of him a little bit, but he's blocking pitches really well, and he's framing so well. I don't expect him to lose any of that in the second half.
What did you see out of the bullpen this week? What did we learn about the arms in the stable?
Oh yeah, that Colin McHugh should have been in the All-Star game. If Aroldis Chapman can make it, and he's got his struggles, I don't really see how McHugh doesn't make it. But I'm not on the voting committee, unfortunately, so I don't get to decide that. I think the players decide pitchers. So yeah, maybe someday. Who knows? I really like what Fairbanks has been doing lately.
Okay.
He's had, since the beginning of July, so it's a small sample size. It's only 3 innings, but he has 3 perfect innings with 3 strikeouts. And that's pretty important considering how he slipped up a little bit. It started in like the Chicago series, and then, tumbled into Seattle, and then I think Boston, he was just a little shaky, but he was experimenting with a cutter. It wasn't really picked up by like Baseball Savant or like anything, but it was sitting at like 95 miles an hour, and it was an okay cutter, but he just was experimenting with it like halfway through a season and wasn't locating it well. So I hope it looks like he completely abandoned that experiment, which is good. I like the idea of adding in a cutter, but I think he should probably save that for the off season, not when we're in a playoff race. So, but yeah, he's been great. McHugh's been great. Whistler has like a strikeout rate around 40%. He's been amazing. Castillo has been, consistent and solid back there. Kittredge has been amazing as well. there are just so many arms the Rays can throw out there that will, put the other team in a difficult spot.
I mean, one of those guys I thought was gonna at least get called in at some point as a reserve. I mean, I get the starting voting. I understand that, but including Shohei Ohtani going in technically as a double All-Star, or however you want to put it. He's the first player to ever be named an All-Star in two different positions. And I think Kevin Cash is going to figure out a way to get him to pitch. I don't know if he's going to start. It sounds like that might be the best way, but then is Major League Baseball going to change the rules where, just because he's pitching and they lose the DH? I mean, it's the All-Star game, so who knows?
Yeah, but they have no trouble changing the rules whenever they feel like it now. So who knows how that's gonna.
And I'm for it, man. For the All-Star game.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Hey, man,
absolutely.
This is. It doesn't really matter. I mean, I guess they still do the. Man, this is how far behind I am with All-Star game rules. Is home field advantage still decided in the All-Star game?
I'm honestly not 100% sure. I'm pretty sure it is. But
other than that, the All-Star game means like nothing other than awesomeness for the fans and getting to see.
Oh yeah, it'll be fun.
Yeah, so getting to see Ohtani pitch even at Coors Field. But if German Marquez can figure out how to pitch well there, I'm sure Shohei can figure out
exactly
how to pitch it well. And he throws a hell of a fastball. So if he was a junk pitcher that threw a bunch of weird sinkers and risers and stuff exclusively, I'd worry about it. But I think he can throw an inning and throw some crazy stuff and throw some heat and then turn around and mash a tater. For the American League, man, we get to finally root for this guy.
Yeah, it's exciting. I like him a lot.
Well, let's get into the week that's ahead of us, and that is today as we are recording. They will be in the middle of a game against Toronto, and then they'll close out before All-Star break against Toronto on Sunday. Then you'll have the All-Star game and the break, and then Friday we'll have the last game before we record at Atlanta. So what do you see out of the upcoming week?
Yeah, I'll start with today. I think the Rays are going up against Ross Stripling for Toronto, and he's been pretty good against the Rays this season in 2 starts. I think he's limited them to like 1 or 2 runs over like 12, 13 innings, so it should be a bit of a challenge, but as long as the Rays can keep it close until Toronto has to go to their bullpen, they'll be fine because that Toronto bullpen is definitely a liability. The game I'm most looking forward to, though, is going to be Sunday against Steven Matz. He's a lefty, and the Rays have had some difficulties with lefty starters this season, but now we have Franco and Brujan getting their first look at him. So I think Sunday is going to be a pretty important game to watch when we're looking for how the Rays are going to perform in the second half. I think it'll be pretty telling. Yeah.
Is there anything with playing Toronto a few days ago and then now we're playing them, or even maybe there's a little bit of a kind of last day of school before spring break vibes, you think, this weekend?
I don't know. I just I wasn't able to catch too many of the games against Toronto when we were up, or against the Blue Jays when we were up in Buffalo. But it's crazy to see just how good that Toronto lineup can be when they have all their pieces working together at once. Yeah. I mean, that's a pretty deep lineup with Simeon, Bichette, Biggio, Guerrero. Teoscar Hernandez is pretty great too. Randall Grichuk is always solid. Like, they have a really deep, strong lineup.
Yeah.
But their bullpen and their defense have just let them down. So
yeah.
I think it'll be a pretty fun end of the series. Like you said, it's got like that last day of school kind of feeling. So the Rays are definitely going to be aggressive with their bench and their bullpen because they don't really need to, save anybody when we have a nice break coming up.
That's right. Well, who's your favorite in the home run derby that's coming up on Sunday?
Oh, man, I'm actually looking forward to the home run derby more than the All-Star game, just because it's at Coors Field. It's somebody's going to hit a ball 500 feet.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
I really wish Mike Zunino would be in it, just because he's had some really great power. I think the obvious favorite would be Otani, but who do you think?
So I don't know if you got a chance to watch the '98 home run derby where Griffey and McGuire, and it was phenomenal. It was so good. It's so good. The in this field though, I mean, Otani I think is your favorite, but sometimes it doesn't work out that way. I mean, Otani's got a lot on his plate. He'll be running around and who knows, but you might think a guy like Trevor Story hitting at home or hitting at Coors Field. Yeah, but Juan Soto I think is a guy that just got announced for it, and I think he's a guy that can launch taters out of Coors Field. But I'm like. Pete Alonso is another one that could really, really do well.
Yeah.
I don't have everyone in front of me, but those are kind of the two guys. Juan Soto and Pete Alonso were like two guys I thought was like, all right. One, because this is going to might be the highlight of the weekend for them, other than maybe playing a couple innings in the All-Star game. But those were my two.
Yeah, I think Alonso could be like sneakily good. Sneakily good. I don't know. He's going to be good, basically, I think.
Sure.
I was looking up, trying to figure out if I was a betting man, like who I might want to bet on in this home run derby. Otani's, he's got to be the favorite, but Alonso might be a pretty good second choice there. I was looking up the no doubter percentage of home runs. So, like, what percentage of a player's home runs would be a home run in every single stadium?
Yeah.
And Mike Zunino he's got almost 90%. So like 90% of his home runs would be home runs everywhere, which is really impressive.
Right.
The next closest is Pete Alonso at 73%. So he might be a good pick. And Trevor Story too, like you mentioned, he's pretty close to Alonso. He's at 72.7%, no doubt home run percentage.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are some guys that, they can hit the ball hard, but they've done it in game and they've done it at a way that like it would be a home run anywhere. So I think Alonso and Story might be good picks as well.
And I agree with you, too, about being more excited for the home run derby because you also get the cool things about, like, who's pitching to these guys. Like, it might be their high school coach or their, or just a special invitee or something like that. Like, if you got to serve up hamburgers for Otani to mash in the All-Star game, I mean, that'd be a dream come true, man.
So sure.
I want to see if there's anything like that. And sometimes you get a little shine for longtime coaches that have been on teams that no one ever knows their names, and they get a little bit of a spotlight for a couple minutes. So that's always fun. That's always the behind the scenes and the All-Star game, just kind of celebrating baseball as an institution and as a pastime. I love it. I wish the All-Star game had a little bit more fun and credence and got a little bit more because it's my favorite All-Star game of all of the All-Star or Pro Bowl or All-Star NHL All-Star weekend. I mean, the All-Star game of baseball is like the top of the list for me.
I like the dunk contest. I think that's probably my favorite All-Star thing. But then the home run derby is a close second because like hitting a home run is one of the coolest things in sports. Like I've never done it, but every time we do our student versus teacher faculty kickball game at my school, it's hitting a home run it feels good. So I can't imagine how it feels in a home run derby.
I know there's not a bat flip when you're kicking a kickball, but like when you
right,
you solidly
I
contact that big red ball and it just is flying and it's a no doubter.
Oh, it's amazing.
Is there a trot? Like, is there like a teacher trot? Like you pull the Conor McGregor on your way around the base paths or something?
I just act like I've been there before. On the inside, I'm loving it a little bit more, but yeah, on the outside, just there, because you gotta be nice to kids. When you're a teacher all the time, but when you're playing them in a game, you get to play hard and you get to win, and it feels so good to win, even if it's against a bunch of 13-year-olds. It feels pretty good.
The hard-hitting journalism here at RBLR. All right.
Oh yeah.
So how do you think Kevin Cash against Madden? I think is the other or no? Who's managing for the National League?
Dave Roberts. I think that's his name. The Dodgers. guy.
So with it being the All-Star game, and it's already a weird game with a lot of, I say weird, not in a bad way, but like it's always a unique game with you're trying to get as many people in as you can, but you're also trying to win the game. How do you think Cash is going to manage this All-Star game?
He's got experience, with a deep bullpen, so I think we're going to see I think we'll see most, if not all, of the pitchers, get a chance to throw in the game.
Yeah.
I'm kind of hoping Zunino doesn't catch too much. Like, I know it's probably only going to be for a couple innings, but I'd rather him just take it easy on his knees. Like, we're going to need him the whole season.
Yeah.
So, maybe he'll get Zunino in at bat, maybe he'll get Wendell in at bat, but I think Cash will be pretty good managing that pitching staff.
And then finally, coming back from the break, hopefully rested and ready for the second half. One game against Atlanta. I know we don't have pitching matchups or anything, but what are you hoping as we come back from spring break? What are you hoping to see on that Friday night game?
Yeah, I think the Rays bench and their bullpen are so deep that like when they play these interleague games, they've been pretty solid. I know they've struggled against the Nationals, but the Nationals have been a really weird, streaky team this season, so I'm not going to put too much thought into them. Yeah. The Rays are 8-4 this season in interleague play, which is pretty solid. I think they've got a good chance against an Atlanta team that is slumping a little bit. Obviously, coming out of a break, it's hard to say like how they're going to come out. But just based on the depth that the Rays have, I think they'll be good against any National League team.
I just thought of like, maybe Cash starts Ohtani at like in the outfield, and then
that would be cool.
Instead of defensively so you have a different DH, but you have Ohtani in the outfield, and instead of doing a defensive substitution, the pitcher just goes out to right field or something like that, and then you put Ohtani on the mound.
I mean, they've done that before with like Alvarado like 2 seasons ago. Like he went over and played third base for like a batter. So I wouldn't put it past him.
But I mean, it is we'd hope they give him time to warm up and do all that stuff before he's gonna. Because I mean, you don't want to blow Ohtani's arm or something like that, like in this silly All-Star game. But just thinking of if it were an actual rules of the game, that's probably how Cash would do it. So, any final thoughts as we wrap up here? It's good to have you back. We missed you for a week, and cannot say enough about your awesome insight and analysis, man.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm working on something about the future of the Rays infield right now that I'll definitely get up as soon as I can. But I actually did have one more thing. I wanted to know if you had any bold second half predictions for the team.
A little spicy.
Anything that might be like a hot take or cold take. I don't know, however you want to do it.
Yeah, I guess if I'm trying to come up with a big one, and I think that it's you're gonna see. I mean, it's more of my hope. My hope is that it's a guy like Archer that comes back from injury, just lights it up, and it's like even though we might be disappointed, I think coming out of the trade deadline, people are going to be disappointed that we didn't go get. So we were one arm away from being a contender, and I think that my hot take is that it won't matter. They play good defense, and we're going to see one of the arms from within. And I'm hoping it's a guy like Chris Archer. That'd be my like storybook comeback story. We love it.
That'd be awesome.
If he came back and was just a solid 4 or 5, that we're not even thinking about a Michael Wacha, we're not even thinking about young guys inconsistency. We just say nope. We have Chris frickin' Archer. He's a solid 4. And he's ready to go for the playoffs, and it's just like, yeah, buddy, that's my hot take is that it won't matter that we don't trade for somebody. So
that's a good one. I like that a lot.
All right. What's your spicy meat? Give me one more fastball before we get out of here.
All right, this might hurt some Rays fans' feelings because we do have Franco up here and we do have Brujan now, but I think Taylor Walls is going to win the Rookie of the Year, and I think he's going to win a Gold Glove. The only question for me would be if he plays enough to qualify, but I think he will. So
I love it, dude. I love that you're championing this guy before anyone else is.
Oh yeah, just wait. He's going to get Rookie of the Year, and then I'll feel even better about myself.
Oh
and it's going to be great.
Oh yeah. So I love it. I absolutely. So With that said, man, the listeners, thank you for lasting the hour with us. If there's one more thing we can beg you to do, follow us on social media. We are at RBLR Sports on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Also, wherever you're listening to this, if you're on Apple Pod, Google Pod, iHeartRadio, Spotify, or YouTube, please just hit that little subscribe button, hit that little follow button, whatever you got there. It's a little click, but it helps a lot for us and the little algorithms and robots. So, thank you again to the listeners. Ben, thank you. And for all of us here at RBLR Sports, we say thank you. And of course, go Rays.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.